Hello guys, welcome back. And in this episode, we are going to learn about Web3 and its components. So before we begin, I would just want to give a quick intro about Web3 today. Web3 today is one of the most rewarding and innovative learn to earn media platform. We are on a mission to build Wikipedia of Web3 where learning can be fun, exciting and also rewarding. So let's begin. So guys, as you all know that why Web3 startups are booming and how it is revolutionizing the future, it's time to move on further, and it's important to understand some of the core Web3 ecosystem and its components. Guys, the entire architecture of the Web3 is built on two fundamental layers, which is layer 1 and layer 2. You must be hearing that, okay, Bitcoin and Ethereum are layer 1 blockchains, while Polygon Matic is a layer 2 blockchain. So what exactly is a layer 1 blockchain? So layer 1 blockchains are an on-chain hardware layer of the blockchain, meaning that the layer 1 blockchain is a combination of hardware and a software, right? So let's say, for example, in Bitcoin blockchain, there are two ecosystem players. One are the miners and one are the users. So miners essentially provide hardware infrastructure to support the entire Bitcoin network, because this is where your entire transaction data is stored, processed and computed. Whereas the Bitcoin core or the Bitcoin wallets are the software layer of the infrastructure which is used by the users to process or to send the transactions. Right? So layer 1 blockchain essentially focuses on improving the scalability, decentralization and the overall security aspect. Layer 1 blockchains also have something called consensus. So consensus are the rules on which the entire blockchain or the architecture should be operated upon. Right? Now moving to layer 2 blockchain, they are like an off-chain layer, like more like software which is built on the top of layer 1 blockchain and focuses more on improving the scalability and the other landscape of the existing blockchain. So you must be knowing that, okay, Polygon is a layer 2 blockchain which is built on the top of Ethereum, and at the same time Polygon enhances the computational power and the transaction capabilities of the Ethereum blockchain, because the layer 2 blockchain uses their own proprietary software and proprietary architecture, and they complement the infrastructure of the layer 1 blockchains. So the entire objective of the layer 1 blockchains is that to mainly provide the entire infrastructure which is actually required to scale and process, right? So essentially you can think of layer 1 blockchains like AWS and layer 2 blockchains like Web3 today, which is something built on the top of AWS and requires AWS to process, compute and make sure their servers are always running. Right? So layer 1 blockchains are very hard to develop and very hard to enter, because you need very core engineering skills to build the complete hardware infrastructure and also the software infrastructure. You need to build layers like machines and computation environments where developers can deploy their code, and then you need to have a complete DevOps and things like that. It's like really very complicated. Whereas layer 2 blockchains are a bit easier to enter, right? Because all you need to focus is on the software solution, because you already have a ready-made infrastructure and you need to use it to develop better applications. So here's more characteristics on what exactly a Web3 integrated future would look like, right? So there are 4 core components. One is the open source. So if you look at the complete blockchain ecosystem or the blockchain startups, you see that they have or they provide their GitHub or GitLab library, and you can also see that their smart contracts are pretty much open, meaning they focus more on open sourceness. They focus more on providing users with the accurate information. The entire idea is that users should know exactly how the transactions look like. Users should know exactly that how they basically store the data, and at the same time they are also built more on the open source technologies, because open source technologies have a very vibrant community. It's very fast, effective to identify the bugs and also to have support. Open source technologies have no licensing cost, right? You don't need to pay any software company or any giants to actually use the codes or to build the application. So it's completely open, it's completely developer friendly, and it helps people actually to learn and build better applications. Second important thing is trustless. So Trust is completely put upon codes, trust is completely put upon cryptography, trust is completely put upon the consensus. So there are already set of rules and regulations on how this entire blockchain should operate, and this entire thing is determined by cryptography, right? So know if you see that like one could actually send bitcoins very easily from wallet A to wallet B without having any banks or any intermediaries or anyone. How is it possible? Because of cryptography, because of algorithm, because the entire trust is put on codes, and this entire infrastructure is processed by miners, and for which they receive rewards in form of Bitcoin. The third important element is decentralization. So this allows users to be in control of their data always, right? Like as I have been talking in the previous video, where imagine a Facebook, or imagine a world where users can control their data and you could actually move it from one platform to another platform, and whenever any entity want to access your data, they have to take approval from you, they have to take your consent from you. So the core element is decentralization. The core element is also to make sure that the network is always up and running. Guys, the biggest advantage of decentralized architecture is that there is 100% uptime guarantee. You must have seen in the news and heard on the news that AWS is down, or sometimes Microsoft's infrastructure is down, but you will never hear that the Bitcoin is down. There is 100% uptime guarantee, because the entire architecture is so beautifully designed using amazing architecture that it's scalable, it's decentralized, it's secured, and also it delivers value to the users. The users always remain in control of data, right? And the other thing is metaverse. So why we lay emphasis on metaverse, and we have seen Facebook rebranding itself to Meta, right? So the entire core objective of Meta is to enhance the visual aspects, right? So as we have seen that we have evolved from Web 1.0 to 2.0 and 3.0. And one of the key things which has improved significantly is the user experience, is the graphics, is the overall immersive experience of the users. So with metaverse, we actually make things like more immersive. So this would form a very core component for very amazing user interaction and experience. And the internet is being flooded with companies trying to use or integrating metaverse to enhance user experience. There's also AI and machine learning component, because we want every user to have a very personalized experience, but at the same time a greater security. If you look at the today's AI architecture, right, like it's been built upon the user's data, and a lot of times without even consent. But when we combine blockchain and AI would be personalized to every user's data and every user's consent. Meaning, if any company wants to deploy any AI algorithm, they have to take approval from you, and users would know that this is the exact data which the AI is actually using. And you can also stop AI from using other data, because everything is mapped to your digital identity, everything is tokenized, everything is like a digital asset which exists on the internet, right? And also it's very, very personalized. The other important thing is universal connection. So right now, one of the core challenges and the problems with the blockchain and the ecosystem is trying to solve is interoperability, meaning to have like a one single bridge and trying to bridge different blockchains and different ecosystem, right? So it becomes easier for user to move into different experiences, different infrastructure, different networks, right? Like meaning, if you're using Sprint or T-Mobile, it should be easier to use or to connect with the other user using the other network, right? So the entire objective is to build this universal infrastructure, or the universal infrastructure of trusted bridges across the internet, across the users. And edge computing and spartial computing. So edge computing essentially refers to processing of data, and spartial computing refers to computation of data. So data processing and data computation should go hand in hand, right? And we also talk about bringing real world assets onto the internet, right? You have been hearing that companies like BlackRock is doing real estate tokenization, meaning they are trying to represent the physical asset onto the internet using blockchain and making the process much more secured with the power of blockchain technology. So guys, here are some of the amazing applications which has made the ecosystem to stand out. So first is the NFTs. NFTs are non-fungible tokens. We have all seen that the boom of NFTs and the boom of digital art. But exactly, NFTs can also be used to represent real world asset. What exactly BlackRock is doing, right? BlackRock is making all the ownership records online, tokenizing it, giving every single asset a unique identity, a unique representation, making it non-fungible. So users can just transact very seamlessly using smart contracts and can move around assets very easily. At the same time, there would be very high level of tracking as well, because BlackRock and companies would know that who are the owners owning the asset, if they want to pledge it, how they are pledging it. I mean, this will unlock the entire potential of finance, which we call decentralized finance, right? So we are going to talk more about decentralized finance as we move forward. But just to understand that decentralized finance is a finance infrastructure without any intermediaries. Guys, we are talking about a future where transactions or banking can actually happen without banks. Just imagine how amazing it's gonna be, right? And then cryptocurrency. So cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a lot of them have actually proved their worth by making transactions much more simpler. Decentralized applications or dApps. In dApps, it's basically the ideology is that the user remain in control of the data. The architecture is decentralized. The assets on the applications are controlled by the users. And decentralized apps and all of these things are also connected to a lot of use cases like gaming. And in fact, the core objective of Web3 today is also to be a dApp, right? So there are certain infrastructure challenges which exist, right? Like which is very expensive currently to store the entire data onto the blockchain. Right? It's also currently very expensive because every single time whenever you have to retrieve data, you have to pay a transaction fee. So Web3 today is currently in a hybrid mode. It's between like Web 2.0 and Web 3, right? Which is Web 2.5. But we want to build like a killer apps. But there are a lot of decentralized applications which actually exist, such as Brave browser. Brave browser is an amazing browser which is completely decentralized and the data is controlled by the users. Brave or any of the companies never ever know about the user or about the sensitive data. It's user who decide how their data has to be used, unlike Chrome. So like that, there are like several decentralized applications, and we are going to push out the entire directory of trusted dApps on Web3 today, guys. So stay tuned. And then we talk about cross-chain bridges, decentralized autonomous organization, DAOs. DAOs are again a very fantastic model because DAOs focuses more on the governance aspect of the entire blockchain, right? At the end of the day, if we talk about any technology, there has to be a process and there has to be a decision-making process essentially, right? Like how do you deploy code? How do you make changes? So let's say, for example, if we take Ethereum, right? Ethereum is essentially determined by a DAO. DAOs are like group of people who give vote, who give consensus. So in a traditional model, right, the power is controlled by the shareholders or based upon how much amount of percentage of shares, etc., and things like that they own. But in this model, we actually want to be people first. We want things in a way that, you know, irrespective of the money or irrespective of the power, everyone should have like equal say in the governance. Everyone should have equal say in the overall governance of the application or the overall ecosystem. So it's the people who vote and it's the people who come first. I told you before that here the people are treated more like community. It's completely community driven. Community rights or people in the community, they represent their rights via tokens which are called DAO tokens, and they can vote on the network, they can vote on ecosystem. And also while building a Web3 startup, it is also very crucial to think about DAOs because it drives much more community engagement. It makes your platform more trusted. It gives people a trust of belongingness. It gives people to trust you. It gives them that, you know, a loyalty that, you know, this ecosystem is amazing. So that's why you know, you see that, you know, they are like supporters of Ethereum, they are supporters of Bitcoin, they are supporters of Polkadot, they are supporters of many different ecosystems, right? Metaverse and gamify. Specifically in gamify, we are talking about moving assets from one game to another. Just imagine, guys, you play like a lot of games, like say you play Warcraft or you play PUBG. So you buy many in-game assets, like such as your avatars, your guns, your machinery, your clothes, etc., which helps you bring efficiency and win more games. Now imagine this thing, you can move from Warcraft to PUBG, or from PUBG to other similar games. Like, that would be fabulously amazing, right? I mean, you could actually do much more things and it would really lock more potential. And at the same time, imagine that the earnings are much more made transparent. So we are moving into a completely new era of gamify and games, which is play to earn games. And Web3 today is also built on similar model of gamification. It is based on learn to earn, right? So we are rewarding users with tokens for being part of the community, right? And what is the importance of decentralized exchanges, right, with Web3 ecosystem, right? So the entire idea of decentralized exchanges is to facilitate transaction, or to facilitate the transaction of assets between the participants in the ecosystem, right? So let's say I own an NFT, or let's say I own a token which represents a share in the real estate or in the apartment launched by BlackRock. But if you want to sell it, or if I want to transact, so I need to have an exchange, right, where I can interact with a person, facilitate the transaction, and a trusted exchange which is actually governed by the people, a trusted platform where there is cryptography, where the algorithm determines whether that particular ownership is genuine or fraud, right? So you need to have an exchange to play the entire facilitation of transaction, or to facilitate the movement of assets and also to track them. It essentially also gives fairer opportunity to startups to go to market. It gives a lot of opportunities to startups and ideas to also raise capital by offering their own tokens. You must have seen that when Ethereum started, Ethereum launched their tokens and people would have bought by paying in Bitcoin. So similarly, there have been a lot of success stories where people have used decentralized exchanges to raise money and to reach out to community. But it is very important to also understand the legal complications when offering IDOs. So guys, IDO stands for initial DEX offering. So you could basically attract community to buy your tokens, to invest in your project, and also help you raise capital. But there has also been a lot of fraud, so not every IDOs are good. You need to evaluate, and we are going to help you how to evaluate a right project also if you want to be an investor. So guys, this entire course is for entrepreneurs, for investors, for builders, for innovators, and also for newbies who really want to understand what exactly Web3 is, right? So let's talk about a case study of Polka Starter. So Polka Starter is a very popular ecosystem by Polkadot. So Polkadot is a layer 1 blockchain which focuses on scalability and using a consensus algorithm which is much more advanced and promises of higher transaction per second and cheaper cost as well. So Polka Starter has currently a lot of projects. So there are like more than 108 projects with 35,000 unique investors, and they have raised more than $58 million in capital with an average raise of $472,000 per startup. Guys, so imagine you can just raise money without any dilution, without going out to traditional investors and VCs saying like, okay, invest in my idea, invest and see that your returns would maximize. And most of the times, like most of the startups never really get funded because investors believe that you're not fundable, you don't have this, you don't have that, etc, etc. But here you actually let people, you actually let community who are going to use your product determine whether your idea can be scaled, whether your idea is solving a problem or not. So you are not only just trying to raise money, but also trying to validate your idea from the people, from the community, whether your idea is solving a problem and whether they would want to use your product or not. So it's but obvious that anyone who is investing in you would also ultimately use it and would also ultimately share it with his or her peers, right? So the entire idea is to build a network. The entire idea is to build a network effect which is actually supported by the community, where they become your brand ambassadors, where they become your users, where they also pay you for using your services and your products, right? So Polka Startup has helped several startups in raising money and building the community and also helping them to solve right problems. There are a lot of other dexes which are out there, and all of these are open source. I would suggest you definitely, learn more about it. I mean, internet is filled with lots of information and lots of amazing opportunities about them. So there is Uniswap, PancakeSwap and TrustSwap. So Uniswap is essentially focuses more on Ethereum ecosystem and Ethereum project, but now they have expanded to several other blockchains as well. PancakeSwap is core of Binance ecosystem or Binance chain ecosystem, and then we have TrustSwap. So this blockchain platforms or the layer 1 blockchains are actually becoming core of Web3 because they are the infrastructure layer, they are the AWS, they are the servers. So the important thing here is to have that every project needs to have a very strong underlying ecosystem, right? That is one of the advantages and also disadvantages initially, because if you fail in building an ecosystem, your users really cannot unlock the true value. There are also a lot of dependencies. For example, you are you only can transact between people who have a wallet. You really cannot transact with everyone who has, who doesn't have a wallet or who don't have a presence on the Web3, right? So these are one of the challenges. So there is a lot of ecosystem play which is involved, and entrepreneurs and community and investors are really, funding ideas and trying to solve this gap and trying to make things much easier, right? And these blockchains and infrastructure are also very important because they are providing the infrastructure. They are making sure that the applications and the ideas are up and running. There is also some importance around interoperability because developers have to make sure that people using and community using Bitcoin blockchain should be able to interact with the Ethereum blockchain with the Polkadot, so on and so forth, right? So they are trying to build a lot of decentralized applications on the top of these blockchains, on the top of layer 1, layer 2, trying to experiment a lot of things, and so far we have actually achieved a lot of success past few years. Community is able to see and experience significant success in interoperability. We have moved towards a dream where asset transfers among different blockchains is becoming much easier, right? An important thing is also the user's data, right? You need to make sure that the user's data is protected, user's asset is secured. So tokenization plays a very important role. So with this session, guys, we have actually understood the characteristics and business aspects what a blockchain startup should have. So the next few sessions are going to be exciting. We are just building up, and thank you so much for showing all the love. You can comment below and let me know if there are any interesting topics you want me to cover, or you have any doubts or queries, and I would be glad to answer and maybe plan some interesting live AMAs. So thank you so much, guys, for sticking around, and looking forward to see you in the next one. Bye bye.